If you asked my younger self what his favorite genre of video game was, I would have probably told you it was the platformer. As I mentioned in an earlier video, I'm a huge fan of Donkey Kong Country and its sequels, and growing up with the Super Nintendo itself meant a high exposure to platformers. I stuck with platformers as my preferred sect of gaming up through the GameCube era, but it was around this time that I began to realize that none of the current games seemed to be able to capture that spirit which the NES and SNES games of my childhood held, and I was even growing a tad bored with those platformers as well. What I needed was a fresh, classic-style platformer with some originality, something to challenge me, to make me think even. It seemed that such a game, however, didn't exist. And then, as if from heaven, such a game revealed itself. Gimmick, the greatest platformer I have ever played. A game so great that for some reason they decided to only release it in Japan and in extremely limited quantities in Scandinavia of all places. Yes, folks, it's another obscure one, but it wouldn't be an episode of Mike the Gamer Guy if it wasn't. Let's take a look.
Mike the Gamer Guy.
One of the most important aspects of any platform game in the history of all platform games is control. If it doesn't control well, it's incapable of being truly fun in my opinion. Luckily, Gimmick plays like security in a 1984-esque police state. That is to say, the controls are very tight. Every jump and movement feels perfectly appropriate to the corresponding button presses. This kind of superb control is even more important in Gimmick than it might be in another platformer. Unlike your Marios and Sonics, the titular Gimmick has some real weight to himself and carries momentum proportional to that weight. So being able to make split-second jumps and turns is very important. Weight and momentum go beyond just Gimmick though. The enemies and most importantly your main attack adheres to a reasonable facsimile of physics. Your basic attack is a star which when fired follows the oft-lauded arc formation which has been maligned by critics in such games as Friday the 13th. Here, however, the arc works perfectly and is very enjoyable to use, bouncing higher or lower depending on your speed and height when you fire it. This allows you to pull off some rather impressive moves if you get good enough. There are also some other alternate attacks and power-ups you can use in addition to the star. Two offensive power-ups, a bomb which is quite powerful but short range, and a fireball which will shoot across the screen and really do some damage. There are also two health-related power-ups, which come in the form of potions. One which increases your maximum life from the 2 hit points you start with, and another which replenishes all of your health. And yes, I did say 2 hit points. Gimmick is a notoriously fair yet difficult game, and this is just one example of why that is. With this unique aspect of physics and the arc pattern of your attack, there is still one element that can make or break this game: level design. And you know what? The developers got that perfect too. Not only is each level wonderfully unique, featuring diverse palettes and environments, but they also each have exclusive hazards, whether that comes in the form of new enemies or other obstacles. By the way, these enemies aren't necessarily what you'd expect from your everyday platformer. No, no, no. They display some pretty incredible acts of intelligence. It's both creepy and very cool. The levels are also crafted in such a way to make more easy the use of your arcing star attack. The contours of the land and angles of the various areas really help alleviate any possible frustration. While we're at it, I really want to talk about the enemy and character designs. At the risk of having my sexuality questioned, I must say that they are really cute. I mean, look at this guy. Jeez, it's too adorable. The bosses are also very nice looking and particularly well drawn. The boss fights themselves are also interesting in the way in which they play out. Always diverse and always introducing a new gimmick, pun intended. Perhaps no other game has had such an appropriate title. Before I wrap things up here, there's a few bits of miscellaneous info to cover. First of all, there is a story to this game, but like many platformers, it's not essential to enjoying the game. Also of note is the game's length, which is only 6 levels long, plus a bonus level if you find all the hidden items, one in each level. This may not seem like a lot, but due to the game's brutal difficulty, it may take hours to complete, and even longer to master and reach that mythical last level. This element of the items does mean that there are 2 different endings to the game, a good and a bad, so replay value is definitely here. Oh, and one last thing, the music. This is some quality stuff here, and I wouldn't be surprised if those of you who play this game walk away from it with some new favorite tunes. The music is even better if you play the Japanese Famicom version, which could access sound channels not present in the NES version. To conclude, even though the state of platformers is improving somewhat, with titles such as Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze and the surprisingly enjoyable Super Mario 3D World, the truly great of the genre will still reside in the world of the 8-bit. Well, that is until someone makes Gimmick 2 for XBLA. Am I right? Anyway, see you guys next time.